How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with inner and outer Moka? Part 1. Huge shout out to higfig for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Naruto scowled and gripped the tri-pronged kunai in his gloved hand tightly as the man across from him just stared at him. Like many times before, his entire body suddenly lit up like a sun. Golden chakra erupted from his very being as black seal-like markings spread across his body, a tattered cloak formed behind with a collar having 6 magatama markings on it, very much like the ones around his neck, and 2 of his endmost blonde locks spiked up, resembling horns. Why don't you just give it up, Naruto? You've got nothing left. The man across from him taunted. The man had a similar shroud of chakra covering his body, but it was different at the same time. He had a similar cloak to Naruto, 9 tomos decorated the back of it, as well as one much larger tomo at the top that had a ripple pattern to it. 6 other tomos also went around his chest area and he was holding a shakujo. While his left eye was purple and had a ripple-like pattern to it, his right eye was red with 3 black tomos in it. We've had this discussion plenty of times before, Obito. He spat the name as if he never wanted to use it again. Just because everyone and everything I know is gone, doesn't mean that I'll just give up. I refuse to let their deaths be in vain. They were trying to stop you from completing the stupid plan that you have, something that I intend to do until I draw my last breath. At the end of his declaration, Naruto's eyes changed. More specifically, they changed into his best friend's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that had been gifted to him when Sasuke had died. HMPH. Even after all this time, you're still filled with so much confidence. The Jubi's second Jinchuriki grinned rather darkly at him. Despite you having received Sasuke's eyes and the rest of the Kyuubi's chakra from that father of yours, you have no chance in defeating me while I'm in control of the Jubi's power. Well then I guess we'll just see about that, huh? Naruto shot back, shifting his right foot behind his left and bring up the tri-pronged kunai in front of him. Are you ready, Kurama? This could very well be the last time. The giant fox that lived inside of him didn't even need a second to think about his answer. Yeah, let's just hurry up and kill this bastard. As if on some unknown signal, the 2 Jinchuriki blasted towards each other with resounding booms, indicating that they both broke the sound barrier. The 2 covered the ground that had been between them in less than a second. Obito's shakujo came sailing towards Naruto, but the blonde was able to block it with a tri-pronged kunai that he held within his hand. Usually, the kunai would have easily snapped and shattered under the pressure of Obito's weapon that came from being the Jubi's Jinchuriki, but Naruto had reinforced its strength with Kurama's chakra so that it was able to block the attack. Naruto's left leg came flying towards Obito's chest, but Itachi had just knocked it away with his left palm before spinning his shakujo around and hitting Naruto right under the chin with so much force that it sent the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki sailing through the air with his back facing the ground. Don't tell me that's all you can do, Naruto. I mean, I knew you were always weak, but this is just pitiful. Obito taunted, idly drumming his shakujo on the ground to provide him some amusement. Naruto growled as he wiped some blood from his lip while Kurama's chakra started to heal his slightly fractured jaw. I'll show you who's weak, you bastard. Obito cocked an eyebrow as he watched a spectral form of the Kyuubi form around Naruto. That's not what had gotten his attention though, he'd already seen that plenty of times. What did catch his attention was that purple armor started to cover it from head to toe, along with 2 giant purple arms that protruded from its back. One of the arms' hands held a ball of black fire within it, while the other had a large sword. Well, this is new. To think that you would cover that mode with Susanoo. The Uchiha remarked, not looking the least bit intimidated by the combination of powerful techniques. This is going to take a lot of chakra. Naruto thought as the spectral figure of Kurama opened its mouth and started gathering a large amount of negative and positive chakra until it formed a massive purple sphere. Seeing this, Obito jumped a fair distance away as a black spectral figure that was larger than the Kyuubi formed around him with 10 swishing tails. The Uchiha also started to concentrate on gathering negative and positive chakra in front of the spectral figure of the Jubi's jaw until the sizes of their spheres were identical. This is as big as I can make the Bijidama, while the Jubi isn't complete. Obito realized. Oh well, it doesn't matter. His is the same size, so if anything they'll cancel each other out. Naruto's Sharingan spun ferociously as the hand of Susanoo that was holding the ball of black flames reached around and hovered over the Bijidama. He's not really trying to do that, is he? Obito mused, not really believing that what the Konoha ninja was attempting to do would work. However, his eyes widened in shock when he saw the Bijidama accept the black flames and have the flames coated. Naruto grinned at his achievement. Never actually thought it would work. Having negative and positive chakra melded together with the flames of Amaterasu wasn't something I ever imagined myself doing. And yet here I am. Obito scowled. You'll never reach me with it. he declared before firing off the massive chakra that was once in between the Jubi's mouth straight towards Naruto. Not on my watch. From beside the blonde, a clone came into existence with a poof before it jumped onto the Susanoo-covered spectral figure of Kurama, already knowing exactly what to do. The clone ran through some hand seals as fast as it could, while Obito's Bijidama continued to soar towards them. Finishing on a unique hand seal, a large barrier made out of kanji appeared in front of him and the original Naruto, which started to absorb the giant Bijidama. Once the giant sphere of negative and positive chakra was out of sight, the clone brought a tri-pronged kunai into view before forcing the Bijidama to be teleported to another identical kunai that was miles away. Obito's scowl deepened as the Bijidama's giant explosion went off in the background, but before he could even make a move, Naruto's Bijidama that was covered in black flames was in front him. His eyes widened and he gritted his teeth together. He didn't have any time to do anything, not even morph his Sharingan into his Mangekyo, so that he wouldn't get harmed. Naruto's grin widened slightly as his Bijidama that was covered in the flames of Amaterasu impacted with Obito and the spectral figure of the Jubi in a massive explosion of chakra and black flames. Is it over? Naruto thought to himself as the spectral figure of Kurama and his Susanoo disappeared. I can still sense the anger and hate that Obito has for me, but his chakra is low. Very low. Which means he's still alive, but barely. Naruto landed on the ground as the rest of Kurama's chakra left his system, revealing him to be wearing his usual black and orange jumpsuit. His forehead protector was securely tied around his head and he had a pair of black gloves on his hands. Obito let out a groan as he lay on the ground. He was missing his entire left leg, as well as most of his right arm, and most of the right side of his stomach and chest area was blown to bits. The only thing that was keeping him alive was the still active shroud of the Jubi's chakra that was around him, even then the shroud was running on fumes. This is it, Obito. Naruto said as he kneeled down beside the barely alive Uchiha with a kunai held in his right hand. You've taken so much from this world, and all you've given it back is pain and sorrow. For that, I'm going to kill you. He flipped the kunai in his hand around so that he was holding it in a reverse grip before he brought the kunai down towards Obito's heart. However, just before the kunai made contact with the Jubi Jinchuriki's flesh, the Uchiha's left hand shot up and grabbed a hold of Naruto's own hand with the last of his physical strength. Naruto scowled as he tried to force the kunai down, but it didn't even budge. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw Obito's right eye change from his usual Sharingan to his Mangekyo Sharingan. He tried to force himself away, but he was held in an iron grip. Yeah, Obito murmured as he tried to bring Naruto inside of his dimension. This is it for the both of us. If I die, then I'm taking you down with me. Naruto gritted his teeth as he kept trying to remove his hand from Obito's, only to result in failure. Time seemed to slow down as the swirling that accompanied the Uchiha's Kamui technique continued to engulf him. He kept trying to think of ways to get free, but was coming up with nothing. That is, until he remembered. The Hiraishin. He could use that to get out of there with no problems, right? He didn't really have much of a choice either way, it was either attempt it or get sealed away within Obito's dimension for eternity. As quickly as he could, he focused on one of the Hiraishin kunai that he'd left in what remained of Konoha. As soon as he'd felt the kunai, he teleported to it as fast as he could, leaving nothing on what was once the battlefield of two Jinchurikis. Naruto's eyes slowly started to open, and he found himself almost reflexively scowling in annoyance as he was met with the familiar white walls of a hospital. He groaned, he really hated hospitals. Wait a minute, hospital. His eyes fully snapped open in surprise as he sat up on the hospital bed. Looking around, he found that he wasn't in a hospital room that he recognized. Oh, so you're awake. Naruto turned his head around and saw a nurse walk in with a clipboard held in her hands and a polite smile on her face. Why yeah, how long have I been out? The nurse hummed as she stopped at the foot of his bed. A week. You were really injured when we found you lying down outside the hospital. Your face was almost as pale as a sheet of paper, actually. And you seemed to have absolutely no energy left in you whatsoever. I'm actually surprised that you were still alive. Naruto nodded. Okay. This might sound weird, but where am I? That is a weird question. The nurse agreed, still smiling politely. You're in Tokyo, the capital of Japan. What the hell is Japan and what the hell is Tokyo? Naruto thought as he kept his face blank and just nodded at the nurse. So, when am I able to leave this place? And where are my clothes? Well, to be honest, we weren't expecting you to wake up until another 2 weeks, so I'll have to go check with the doctor who admitted you in here. Naruto nodded and the nurse continued. As for your clothes, well, they were torn to shreds, barely anything of them left. So the hospital paid for some new ones, they're just in the closet over there for when you're ready to get dressed. The nurse said, pointing to a closet that was currently closed before she went over to the chair and picked up his weapons pouch. The only thing that remained unscathed was this pouch, don't worry, we didn't go searching through it. Patient's privacy and all. Alright, thanks for that. Naruto said with a smile that caused the nurse's face to heat up slightly as she placed the pouch back on the chair. Anyway, would you be able to go and find that doctor to find out when I'm about to leave here? Oh, of course. The nurse mumbled, looking slightly disappointed at the fact that he was going to be leaving soon. Naruto sighed as the nurse left his hospital room and closed the door behind her. Tokyo is the capital of Japan, according to that nurse. Ah man, where the hell am I? He groaned and slumped back down on the bed. Hold on, if I'm here, wherever here is, then what happened to Obito? He wasn't expecting an answer, but he got one anyway. Got no idea, brat. Hey Kurama. Glad to know that you're alright. Kurama merely let out a HMPH at that. Did you really expect anything less of me? Naruto chuckled but didn't reply to his Biju partner. I always end up getting myself into these weird situations. He got up and walked over to the closet that the nurse had pointed to beforehand and opened it. I should probably get dressed, then maybe I can just get the hell out of here. Inside the closet was a plain, long-sleeved gray t-shirt, black jeans and a pair of ordinary black runners. Not what my first choice in clothing would be, but it will do for now. A tall man that easily stood at 6 feet wearing a black leather jacket with equally black pants and shoes was standing upon one of the many tall buildings in Tokyo, Japan. He ran a hand through his scraggly brown hair as a smug smile spread across his features and he scanned the city with his yellow eyes. Two people were stood on his right and left, both wearing the same clothing with the same brown, scraggly hair and yellow eyes. In fact, the only difference among the three was that their heights were slightly different. So, when are we going to make our move? It's just that I'm really pumped up about fighting whoever has such a powerful aura. The shortest and the on one, the 6-foot man's right said with excitement evident in his voice. Soon, I've just got to hone on whoever it is as location and then we'll go pay them a visit. The one on the 6-foot man's left said. Then hurry up and find whoever it is. The 6-foot man groused as his smug smile turned into an annoyed frown. Yeah. The man on the left murmured nonchalantly. It's just that whoever's aura it was has died down exponentially, it also seems to have become more calm, so just give me a minute. The man in the middle simply crossed his arms as the shortest of the three scoffed and shot the man on the left an annoyed look. I bet you're just getting it, sensing Yoki. The man on the left sneered back at him but remained silent as he continued to pinpoint where the aura was coming from. So the one in the middle started in an attempt to strike up a conversation. The new school year at Yokai Academy is beginning soon. Ugh. The one of the right groaned. We're going back to that pathetic school again this year. Yeah, you bet. The 6-foot-tall man with a small smirk, knowing that his companion absolutely hated schools altogether. Before he could say anything else, the one on the left spoke up with a smirk forming on his face. I found it. Come on, let's go greet whoever it belongs to. I suppose the first thing I should do right now is to try and find out where I am exactly and what way it is back to Konoha. Naruto thought as he wailed over to the window that had the curtains covering it. He moved the curtains to the side and he felt his eyes go wide and his jaw go slack at what he saw. Outside the window, he could see buildings that seemed to be made nearly entirely of glass that were as tall as the Biju themselves. Below the buildings were numerous amounts of different colored lights and what seemed to be some sort of transport moving around. He couldn't make out what they were exactly as he was in a high part of the building. He also took note of the fact that it was dark out and that he was at least 50 stories high. What the tuck is this? He thought to himself in shock. Kurama, I've a feeling we're not in the elemental nations anymore. You don't say. Kurama deadpanned as he rolled his eyes, but Naruto ignored him. Naruto took some steps away from the window with his eyes still wide in shock before he fell back onto the hospital bed in a sitting position. How the hell did I get here? The last thing I remember in the elemental nations was fighting Obito and then nothing. Kurama frowned as he heard who he had come to accept as his partner's thoughts. He only remembered fighting Obito. No details. He didn't remember using his father's technique at the same time that Obito used his Kamui. It seems as if you've lost some of your memory, Naruto. Too bad I can't do anything about it. Oh well, it's not like it matters all that much, it seems as if he's only lost the most recent part of his memory before we got here wherever here is. Kurama mused but didn't say anything to his Jinchuriki. He didn't see a need to. Alright, get it together. Now, what do I do first? Try and find a way to get back to Konoha. He shook his head almost immediately after the thought came to him. No. There would be no point in me going back there. Everyone I knew is dead. He was broken out of his thoughts when the nurse from before came back into his room, the same polite smile from before gracing her face. I just spoke to the doctor, he said that you were free to go, but you'll have to fill out some forms at the front desk since we don't have any information on you. Alright, thanks for that. Naruto smiled at her as he got up from the hospital bed and made his way towards the slightly shorter nurse. Do you mind if you take me to where I can fill the forms out? And no, I don't mind. Naruto followed the nurse through the hallways of the hospital, with said nurse swaying her hips from side to side slightly as she walked in an almost suggestive way. Something that Naruto would never admit to glancing at a few times. However, before they could reach the desk that the nurse had spoken about, the elevator doors that they were walking past opened up. Inside the aforementioned elevator were three of them wearing identical black leather jackets and equally black pants, with the same brown, scraggly hair and yellow eyes. It was the last of the men that made Naruto frown though. He was wearing a dark blue t-shirt and black pants, and was being held in place by the tallest of the three men who had yellow eyes. Before the man that was being held in place could even blink, the tallest of the three grabbed his neck with one hand and snapped it with an audible crack before throwing the body away from him as if he was discarding a piece of trash. Naruto's frown deepened as the nurse next to him screamed and made a run for it, along with anyone else who saw the action. That didn't seem to bother the three men though, as they were staring at him and only him. That's him, right? The tallest of the three asked the man to his left, who nodded in confirmation. Well, let's have a good fight, then, huh? He cracked his neck and rolled his shoulders as he and his two companions started to run straight towards Naruto. I don't even know these guys and they already want to kill me. The blonde thought in annoyance as he tilted his head to the side from one of the men's punches before lashing out with his leg and planting his foot in the attacking man's stomach, sending him rocketing through the air until he impacted with the wall, cracking it. Before the blonde could celebrate, the other two men were upon him, coming from both his sides with their fists cocked back in a ready position to punch him straight in the face. Naruto didn't bother to dodge this time, instead he simply raised both of his hands and caught the two fists with ease. The man on his left side went to sweep his legs from under him, but Naruto simply jumped over it, let go of the man's fist, and planted his foot in the man's face. Thanks to the distraction, the man on his right, which he idly took notice that he was the tallest, was able to get out his grip and put some distance between them. So, why are you guys fighting me anyway? Naruto asked casually as the man he threw into the wall got back up, as well as the one who had been kicked in the face. We felt that you had a strong aura, so we came to kill you in order to prove ourselves. The tallest of the three said. Then why did you kill that man instead of just focusing on me? Naruto shot back as he nodded in the direction of the man's corpse, which was in the way of the elevator doors closing. The shorter of the three sneered as he dusted himself off. Human lives don't matter, they're just trash whose existence is a bother. They're so pathetically weak too. Naruto arched an eyebrow at him. You're not a human. No. The shortest one sneered at him again. And according to over there he glanced at the one who'd been kicked in the face, which got him a glare in return. You're not either, if the aura you have is any indication. Well, for your information, I am a human. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and gave them all an annoyed look as the three regrouped in front of him. Leah. The censor, as Naruto had deduced, cut the shortest one off. No, he's not lying. He has a powerful aura, yes. But now that I'm closer to him I can tell that it's not Yoki, it's different. I've felt it in all humans, but he has a lot more of it, it's like comparing an ant to a skyscraper. It's a lot denser as well, so it's probably why I mixed it up with Yoki from such a distance away. We came all this way for a human, the tallest of the three snarled, obviously not happy with the new information. Fine, then to compensate, we'll destroy the building and kill everyone in it, including this stupid blonde. Naruto's eye twitched at being called a stupid blonde, but he didn't bother to make a comment on it. I won't let that happen. Just try and stop us then. The shorter of the trio sneered as all of their bodies started to bulge in different places. Their skin grew scales, their chins became pointed, the teeth that were revealed thanks to them sneering and snarling at him became snake-like, their tongues lengthened and the tip split off into two parts, like a snake. Their limbs disappeared, replaced by a long and thick tail that acted as a support to keep their now larger bodies upright. Two large ram-like horns formed on their heads and their yellow eyes gained slits in them. Okay, I know that weird stuff seems to follow me around, but isn't this a bit far? I mean, I don't even know what the tuck these three are, not that I care that much. Naruto thought. Behold, our true forms. Cower in fear at our mere presence, because we are. I couldn't care less what you are. Naruto said, effectively cutting the large snake-like creature in the middle off. The one he'd cut off flicked his tongue and hissed at him before turning to his two companions. Start killing everyone in sight, I'll take care of this human personally. His two companions seemed to nod in acceptance before they slithered in opposite directions. Naruto made a move to start running after one of them, but the snake-like creature who had declared that he'd take care of him slithered in front of him with impressive speeds and smashed its tail into Naruto's ribs, sending him flying through a wall. Sakura hits harder, but damn that still hurt. Naruto noted as he picked himself up and dusted himself off. It looks like I'll have to take care of this bastard first, though. His hands went down to his thigh, the spot he usually kept his weapons pouch, only to find it not there. Ah shit, must have left it in the room. I'm going to need it too, I can't exactly use jutsu in a building like this without bringing it to the ground. I'm surprised that you're still alive, but it doesn't matter. You'll die with the next hit I deliver to your pathetically weak human body. The snake-like creature declared as it slithered towards the shinobi at a fast pace. Naruto was ready this time, however, and smashed his fist into the snake-like creature's face in between the two ram-like horns, sending it flying back through the hole that had been made when Naruto crashed through the wall. Using his opponent's momentary downtime, he put his hands into a familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Two puffs of smoke made themselves known beside the Jinchuriki and revealed two perfect copies of himself. Already knowing what to do, the two clones sprinted off in separate directions, both of them going after the other two snake-like creatures. If that's as hard as you can hit, then you might as well just give up now. Naruto spun around, was actually surprised when he saw the same snake-like creature slowly slithering towards him with a smug expression and no noticeable damage. I hit him as hard as I could, how the hell is he still alive? Not to mention that he doesn't look the least bit injured. Naruto thought before shaking his head, it didn't matter right now and at least he found out that his body was able to endure hard hits. He bit the inside of his cheek as he tried to come up with a solution that would let him remove this. Whatever the tuck it was without destroying the surrounding area. The Rasengan. No, that would probably send his body flying with enough force to destroy a good amount of walls. He closed his eyes and sighed. He didn't exactly want to use that on someone that really didn't seem to be all that strong, but he was limited to using it thanks to him being in a room and not having the desire to destroy the building. The creature with two ram-like horns on its head saw him close his eyes and use it to its advantage. Rushing forward with a gleeful hiss, the creature attempted to slam its horned head straight into the shinobi's chest. He smirked when he heard a delightful cracking noise, but frowned in confusion a second later when he realized his target hadn't even moved from its attack like he'd expected. Naruto opened his eyes to reveal the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that Sasuke had given him just before his death. Around him, a purple ribcage had formed and protected him from the snake-like creature's headbutt. A purple arm with a hand connected to it grew out of the side of his Susanoo and picked the creature up in an iron grip. The creature wriggled around, but found that it couldn't move an inch, so he settled for a glare directed at the shinobi. What the hell is this? That bit of information doesn't concern you in the least. Naruto said as he returned the creature's glare. What does concern you, however, is what I'm going to do to you. You're just a pitiful human, you can't do anything to me. Besides, I'll easily be able to get out of this. Just give me a C. Don't bother. Naruto cut him off. You won't be able to get free, no matter how hard you try. Besides, you don't even have one more second to live anymore. As soon as he'd finished speaking, Naruto's Susanoo clenched its fist and squished the creature into nothing but blood and the part of the tail that the hand couldn't grab. The Susanoo faded out of existence as Naruto blinked and his eyes reverted to their normal blue. He sighed and started to run back to his hospital room, intent on getting his weapons pouch so he didn't have to use Susanoo again. When he got back to the room he'd stayed in when he was taken into the hospital, he immediately ran over to the chair where his weapons pouch was and strapped it to his right thigh. He was about to run back out of the room, but froze in his steps when he felt memories suddenly rush into his mind. His clones had been destroyed, well more specifically one had been destroyed while the other had dispelled itself, having completed its task in stopping the snake-like creature it went after by shoving a Rasengan straight into its face. Naruto rushed out of the room and took off in a full sprint in the direction that the destroyed clone had taken before. The snake-like creature hissed at a middle-aged man with black hair and brown eyes, who was backed up against a wall with his eyes wide open in fear. What the hell are you? The man shouted as his eyes frantically searched for an escape. He couldn't find one. What am I? The creature smiled cruelly. Why, I'm a Ceres, of course. Why, you mean the Greek mythical creature that hides in the sand with the only thing that sticks out of the sand is its horns. The man gulped as the Ceres's tongue went out of its mouth for a brief moment while a satisfied hissing sound made its way to his ears. My, you're quite knowledgeable for a human. The Ceres remarked before a small grin broke out onto its face. I guess it's just too bad for you that I'm going to kill you right here and now. Oh no you won't. The Ceres hissed again, though this time in annoyance as a certain blonde shinobi came sprinting towards him down the hallway they were in. You again. The middle-aged man used the distraction provided by the blonde to run away. Yeah, me again you oversized snake. Naruto bellowed back. When the blonde got close, the Ceres swiped its tail at him, but Naruto was able to jump out of the way and stick to the wall, right next to the Ceres's head. The Ceres swung its tail at him again, but Naruto was no longer there and was instead right behind it. Without even thinking, Naruto lunged at the Ceres and wrapped both of his arms around it in a tackle, sending them both through the wall. Unfortunately for the both of them, that wall was connected to the outside, and so the both of them were sent sailing through the air. Naruto's eyes widened at this. He didn't know that breaking through the wall would give them a free ticket to the cold, hard earth beneath the large building they were in. He unwrapped his arms from the sursts and kicked it away, causing it to go faster in its plummet towards the ground. "Now look what you've done, you idiot." The Ceres hissed rather loudly as it flailed around in the air. It didn't seem that the oversized snake had much control of its own body while free-falling. "Yeah, okay, I admit that wasn't my best moment," Naruto murmured in slight embarrassment as the ground got closer and closer. He reached into his weapons pouch and pulled out 2 tri-pronged kunai. "Here, catch." He called out as he tossed the kunai and embedded it into the Ceres's body, causing a hiss of pain to come from the creature, before tossing the other kunai through a window of the hospital. "Why the hell did you bother to tell me to catch it if you were just going to impale me with it?" the Ceres snapped. "Besides, I don't have any arms to catch things." "Well, that's too bad for you, I guess," Naruto said as he suddenly appeared right next to the Ceres with his hand on the kunai. "A word of warning, try not to throw up." Wah. Just before the two of them landed in the middle of the road, they suddenly disappeared from the view of the people who had seen them falling, much to their shock. Naruto and the Ceres reappeared right next to the kunai that Naruto had thrown into the hospital while they were falling. Having used the jutsu many times before, Naruto didn't feel the effects that came with transporting from one place to another instantaneously. The Ceres, however, had never been involved with something like that and flopped to the ground almost immediately. "Well, it seems playtime is over," Naruto said as he put a hand around the kunai that was still embedded in the oversized snake. "People like you who have no care for others' lives don't deserve to live." He channeled his wind chakra through it before cutting the Ceres in half, causing blood to start oozing out of both halves. Naruto sighed before walking over to a sink that was in the room and turning the tap on before washing the blood of the tri-pronged kunai. "Hey you, stop right where you are and put your hands behind your head." Naruto turned his head to the side to see 2 men aiming some sort of handheld weapon at him. They wore dark blue uniforms with a matching dark blue hat. "Is there something I can do for you 2 gentlemen?" Naruto asked as he dried the kunai off with his shirt before turning to face the 2 men fully with an arched eyebrow. "Yes, put your hands behind your head and don't move," barked the man on the left. "Just hurry up and leave this place, Naruto." Kurama sighed in boredom as he rested his chin on his human-like hand. Alright. Naruto rolled his eyes and placed the tri-pronged kunai back into his weapons pouch before locking himself out of the window, ignoring the cries from the 2 men in the room he had just left. Naruto yawned as he sat up. He took a look at his surroundings and noticed he was in the same spot as he was last night. He had decided to sleep on the top of one of the tall buildings that were in Tokyo. He stood to his feet and stretched his body before placing his weapons pouch back onto his thigh. "Well, I suppose it would be best to try and at least live in this place." He was about to run and jump off the building, but something caught his eyes. Walking over to the something, he found out that it was a few pages of paper taped to the ground with writing on it. He tore the tape off the paper and picked it up. "Yokai Academy, huh?" he mused before noticing a small separate note attached to the pages, and he started to read it. "That was quite a show you put on last night. Unfortunately for you, a lot of people in Tokyo bore witness to it and you're currently being hunted by the Japanese government. Now I'm sure that you'd have no problem in eliminating anyone that was to come after you, but that just doesn't seem to be your style. If you don't want to be the cause of major trouble in Tokyo, then I suggest that you seriously consider my offer for you to join my academy. Headmaster of Yokai Academy." Naruto sighed as he pocketed the small note and rolled up the few pages of paper. "Going to an academy wouldn't be the first thing on my to-do list, but why not? It could be fun. Besides, it's not like this academy could be dangerous, right? I could really use the break from life-threatening situations." Naruto sighed as he glanced out of the window on the bus he was currently sitting in. He was currently wearing the school uniform that consisted of a white-collared shirt, brown pants, a green blazer and an orange tie. The only thing that he could get an orange without changing the uniform too much. It had actually been given to him on the second night that he slept on top of a building in Tokyo. He didn't know how the headmaster kept finding him, but it didn't really matter that much in his opinion. So long as the headmaster didn't try and kill him, he was fine with it. Even if it was creepy. As far as he could tell, they were no longer in Tokyo, if the disappearance of the massive buildings was any indication. Something that he was internally grateful for. He didn't have any money when he arrived in Tokyo. A pickpocket of a man in a business suit, a henge and a quick trip to the casino fixed that problem up rather easily. With the money he got from the casino, he was able to buy a backpack to carry all of his stuff in, namely his weapons pouch and money, seeing as he didn't have any storage scrolls on him. He also bought some sets of clothes as well as necessities that would keep him hygienic. He'd been using the henge throughout the week in order to stay off of the government's radar because according to the headmaster of Yokai Academy, they were the people going after him. He didn't actually believe it at first, but he found out later the same day that he was in fact being hunted down when he saw a news broadcast on a television that was in the casino he had been in. It had been a week since he got the papers concerning Yokai Academy, which turned out to be forms for him to fill out. He'd filled them out of course, but he had no idea as to where to send them. So he decided to find the bus stop as it was apparently called, where he would be picked up by something called a bus and just hand them in when he reached the academy. "So, you're one of the students enrolling at Yokai Academy?" The bus driver suddenly asked, glancing over his shoulder to look at the blonde with one of his glowing eyes as he took a puff on the cigar in his mouth. "Yeah, I am," Naruto answered and idly noted that the glowing eyes actually made him look pretty creepy. "Wait, you said one of, who else is enrolling?" The bus driver didn't look away from him and somehow kept the bus on the road. "Another boy around your age, I believe his name is Aono. We're just about to stop at the bus stop that we're picking him up at, actually." Naruto didn't say anything else and instead chose to stare out the window and wonder just what laid ahead of him. Before the blonde could continue his musings any longer, the bus suddenly came to a halt while the doors at the front of said vehicle opened. From those very same doors, a boy walked in with a bag slung over his shoulder. He had black hair, brown eyes and wore the same uniform that Naruto himself was wearing. All in all, he just seemed like one of those people you'd see walking down the street and pay absolutely no attention to. "So you're Aono-kun?" The bus driver asked, his glowing eyes freaking the boy out slightly. "Why yes, I am." Tsukun replied as he gave the bus driver a nervous smile while the doors behind him closed. "Well, go and find a seat." Tsukun nodded and started to walk down the middle of the bus but stopped after a few steps when the bus driver's voice reached his ears again. "I'd suggest you make friends with that boy down there as well, you're going to need people to back you up." The bus driver chuckled in a manner that sent a shiver down Tsukun's spine. After all, Yokai Academy is a very horrifying school. Tsukun gulped before he continued to make his way down the middle of the bus. "Hey." Naruto greeted with a lazy wave as Tsukun sat on the duo of seats that were next to the ones he was sitting on. He stuck his hand out with a smile on his face. "Uzumaki Naruto, nice to meet ya." "Aono Tsukun." Tsukun took the offered hand and shook it with a smile on his face, internally glad that he was able to meet a seemingly nice person on his first day. "So are you a first year as well?" "Yeah, sure am." Naruto replied as the bus started to enter a tunnel. "Don't you think it's a bit weird though? The name of the school, I mean. It's literally called Monster Academy." "Yeah, I guess it's a bit weird." Tsukun shrugged lightly. "But it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean there's no such things as monsters anyway." "I guess not," Naruto muttered. "That's something that's been on my mind ever since I saw those enrollment papers. First, those things that attacked me at the hospital, Sarist I believe that guy called them, they were definitely not human and it wasn't chakra they were using either. And then later that same night I get those enrollment papers and the note from the headmaster of a school that goes by the name of Yokai Academy." Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. "There's something going on here and I don't like it a single bit. But whatever it is, I can't let Tsukun know. It's obvious from what he said before that he has no knowledge of whatever these other beings are and he has a small amount of chakra, so he's obviously a human himself. You two best prepare yourselves." The bus driver suddenly said, gaining both teens' attention. "As soon as we exit this tunnel we'll be out the front of Yokai Academy." Whether they needed the time to prepare themselves or not, they didn't get the chance to, for as soon as the creepy bus driver finished speaking they exited the tunnel and the bus stopped. The bus driver huckled in that eerily creepy way once more as the two grabbed their things and made their way off of the bus. "You two have fun now and do be careful." When they got a look at their surroundings, Naruto gained a deadpan expression while Tsukun started to freak out. Off to the side of them was a scarecrow with a pumpkin as a head, it had the front of it carved out as if it was ready for Halloween. A fair distance in front of them was a large building, which had lightning appear behind it almost a second later. Naruto presumed it was the school, while Tsukun just turned around to face the bus and roared with all he had. "What is this place? Where the hell did you drop us?" The black-haired boy then turned around to study the school building more thoroughly, his eyebrow twitching slightly. It looks like a haunted mansion." Naruto shook his head in amusement before clapping the boy on the shoulder. "Relax, Tsukun. That might just be what it looks like on the outside, you know what they say, don't judge a book by its cover." "I suppose so." He muttered as he felt himself relax at the reminder that Naruto was there. He had no clue why, but to him it felt like the blonde just had an aura around him that screamed safe zone. He decided that it was best to stay near the safe zone. However, before the duo could even start walking towards the school, they both heard a rather feminine scream. Humming through. Get out of the way. Naruto spun around and his eyebrows shot up into his hairline at what he saw. Plowing towards them on a bicycle was a girl that had long pink hair and was wearing what he guessed was the standard attire for girls at Yokai Academy while she had her eyes closed in preparation for a collision. Acting quickly, Naruto sidestepped the path of the bike and when the girl got closer to him, he grabbed her off of said self-powered vehicle by wrapping his arm around her waist, letting the bike continue to roll until it fell over on its own. "Are you alright?" Naruto asked as he set the girl down on her own 2 feet. "She's actually pretty cute." She opened her eyes, which he noted to be a dazzling green, before she smiled apologetically at him with a small blush rising to her cheeks. Sorry about that, I got a bit dizzy from my anemia because I haven't had any blood for a while." "What do you mean by that?" Naruto asked while Tsukun felt his face heat up slightly as he took in the girl's features. I'm a vampire, you see, and if I go without having any blood for a while, well stuff like that can happen." Tsukun's jaw promptly crashed into the floor while Naruto arched an eyebrow at her. "You're really a vampire?" Naruto asked. The girl nodded, albeit a bit timidly, but something in his tone bothered her. "That's not a problem, is it? You don't hate vampires or anything like that, do you?" "No, I don't." Naruto answered almost immediately without even bothering to think about it. "In fact, if your anemia is playing up and you really are a vampire, then you can suck my blood if you want." The girl's face lit up. Really? Are you sure?" At Naruto's nod, she pounced. "Capuchu." She wrapped her arms around his neck and sunk her fangs into it while Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist to keep her steady as she drank away. Tsukun's jaw broke through the ground as his face heated up at what the two were doing. The girl moaned and pushed her body against Naruto's even more as she happily drank his blood. While drinking his blood, she found out that while it was regenerating just as fast as she was drinking, it also tasted absolutely amazing. Naruto let go of the girl's waist just as she pulled her fangs from his neck, licking her lips to get any blood she may have missed. She sighed contentedly as she unwrapped her arms from his neck and a dreamy expression came upon her face with a blush rising to her cheeks. That was the most amazing blood I've ever tasted." She put her hands on her cheeks and swayed on the spot slightly, seemingly off in her own little world. Wait a moment, Tsukun suddenly stammered as he picked his jaw off the ground and clicked it back into place. "You mean that you're really a vampire? As in the monsters that hate garlic and crosses?" She'd stopped swaying on the spot, but she still held the dreamy expression and seemed a little dazed. "Anyway, sorry again for before, I'm Akashi Moka by the way." "Uzumaki Naruto." The blonde then jerked a thumb over to Tsukun. "The one who doesn't seem to be able to grasp the concept of you being a vampire is Aono Tsukun." Hey. Tsukun greeted as he gave the vampire a small wave before looking at his watch. "We should probably get going so we don't miss the entrance ceremony." Naruto and Moka both nodded, with the latter gaining a slightly hopeful look afterwards. "You two will still talk to me after the ceremony, right?" "Of course." Tsukun agreed while Naruto nodded and picked up her bike before handing it back to the pink-haired vampire. "I should probably talk to the headmaster at some point, but that can wait until later," Naruto thought as the trio made their way towards the school. Naruto was sitting behind his desk in his homeroom, his chin was rested on his palm while his face held a bored expression. Something that was mirrored by most of the other students in the class. Sitting to his right was Tsukun, while up the front of the class was a woman with blondish yellowish hair that had 2 tufts near the top that resembled cat ears. She wore a white blouse, an orange skirt, low-heel sandals and a pair of glasses. "Hello everyone and welcome to Yokai Academy. I'm your homeroom teacher, Nekonom Shizuka," she announced cheerfully, but most of the students in the class were either ignoring her or only half listening. "Now, I'm sure you all already know this, but this is a school built for the sake of monsters to attend." Monsters, Tsukun thought as he gulped slightly. "Wait a minute, does that mean Naruto-san's a monster too?" He took in a breath of air and calmed himself down. "No, I don't think so." He said on the bus that the name of the school was weird, so he probably didn't know about this either. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose in annoyance and sighed. "Well, that's just dandy. Your luck is unbelievable." Kurama's deadpan voice came from in his mind. "You can go into a casino without any money and come out a rich man, and yet you always find yourself in potentially life-threatening situations." "Thanks for pointing out the obvious, Kurama." Naruto shot back in annoyance, something that caused the Biju to grin. Hey, just because he liked the blonde didn't mean he couldn't get any amusement from seeing him annoyed. Do you understand? It's a matter of being able to disguise yourself well as a human. This is the foundation of coexistence. Nekonom announced while Naruto frowned, having missed out on what his homeroom teacher had been saying before that. You are never to allow any of your fellow students to know your true form. Understand? Hey sensei, would it not be better for us to eat up those puny humans? And if they're beautiful girls, then molest them. The student sitting in front of Naruto asked. He had shaggy blonde hair, piercings under his lip and a smirk on his face. Ah, but there's no humans here. Nekonom said. This academy is within a secret and sacred world, and even if humans do somehow manage to get here, we'll probably put them to death or something like that. I'm going to be killed if they find out I'm a human, Sukun mentally yelled as he held his head in his hands, while wondering why he had even bothered to come to the school, seeing as his parents found the flyer for it after some weird priest dropped it. Though, maybe I'll be able to stay at least for a little while. I've already made 2 friends in Naruto-san and Moka-san, I can't just leave them after only just getting here, even if I don't know why they're friends with an average guy like me. Naruto rolled his eyes as he watched Sukun basically freak out in his seat from his peripheral vision. Though he couldn't really blame him, Sukun was just a regular human after all, he didn't even know how to use chakra, so it wasn't like he had a way to defend himself. Now that he thought about it, Sukun's situation was actually kind of like putting a mouse in the middle of a group of hungry cats. Excuse me. A familiar voice shouted as the door at the front of the classroom opened to reveal a certain pink-haired vampire. I'm sorry I'm late, sensei. I got lost after the entrance ceremony and couldn't find the room. That's fine. Nekonom waved off Moka's apology with a cheerful smile. Just go and find a seat. Okay. Moka chirped while her eyes scanned the room for a seat. Most of the students in the class just stared at Moka for a while before they started murmuring among themselves. Who is she? Such long and flowing hair. She's beautiful, even if it's just her transformation, there isn't anyone else who could transform into such a beautiful girl. Naruto rolled his eyes at their antics before Moka's eyes met his. Moka's face lit up almost instantly before she glumped him, sending him off of his chair and onto the floor with her on top of him. Ah, I'm so glad we're in the same class, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled at the vampire as his face heated up slightly thanks to their current position. Yeah, I'm glad as well, Moka-chan. Naruto deliberately ignored the jealousy and anger he could feel rolling off of the other students in the class. You should probably get off of me though, Moka-chan. We've got class and all. The vampire's face heated up in both embarrassment and the realization of what their current position was before she quickly scrambled off of him with a sheepish expression. Hee, sorry about that. I just got excited when I saw you. That's fine, Moka-chan. Don't worry about it. Naruto said as he picked his chair back up and put it back where it was while the other students went back to their own business, all the while silently cursing the blonde. Oh, Sukun-kun is in the same class too. Moka practically beamed at the fact that her 2 new friends were in the same class as her before she took the free seat that was behind Naruto. Since it was the first day there wasn't any classes on, the students had only been required to attend the entrance ceremony and meet their homeroom teacher. Almost immediately after Nekonom had dismissed them, Moka had grabbed a hold of both Naruto and Sukun's arms and all but dragged them out into the hallway. Come on, let's go explore. Naruto just nodded at the excited vampire with a smile as he let himself be dragged, while Sukun mentally cried in tears at how hard the girl had her hand clamped around his arm. As the 2 boys continued to get dragged down the hallway, Sukun noticed that most of the boys were sending him and Naruto jealous looks, while some girls were sending Moka the same look. Hey, your name is Akashi Moka, right? The trio turned their heads to see the student who had suggested eating humans before in homeroom walk up to them, a smug smirk adorning his face as his eyes traveled over Moka's body. I'm Kamui Saizo. So, what's a beautiful girl like you hanging out with these 2 losers? He reached over and grabbed Sukun's collar before lifting the human off the ground with ease. The other students in the hallway took notice of this and took a few steps away from them, having heard of Saizo's reputation. Naruto's hand shot out and grabbed Saizo's wrist in a firm grip. Put him down, Saizo. Saizo sneered at him. No, I don't think I will, you wee. The loud cracking noise resounded through the hallway, shocking everyone present at what they were seeing. Sukun stumbled a little as he suddenly found himself standing back on his own 2 feet. Like most of the other students in the hallway, Moka's eyes had widened in surprise at what had occurred. Naruto let go of Saizo's now broken wrist and gave him a scowl, while said monster grabbed where his bone had been broken and gritted his teeth, refusing to scream at the pain. I told you to let him go, and you didn't listen. Naruto's tone was similar to a teacher reprimanding their student as he stared the bully down. And because you didn't listen, I broke your wrist. Sukun stared at the blonde with shock and disbelief evident on his face, while Saizo snarled. How dare you do that to me, you bastard. Before Naruto could retort, Moka had grabbed both his and Sukun's arms and started running down the hallway. Saizo sneered in the direction they went as he rubbed his throbbing wrist. You better watch your back. He threatened even though the trio were already out of hearing range. As for you Akashi Moka, I'll get you for myself soon. The trio finally stopped running and found themselves in an empty corridor near a set of stairs. Sukun seemed a little shaken up, which made Moka look at him worriedly, while Naruto just looked a bit disappointed. "Are you two alright?" Moka asked with a concerned expression. "I was a little scared back there." "I'm fine. And thanks for that, Naruto," Sukun said as he turned to look at the blonde. "Don't worry about it. That's what friends are for, right?" Naruto said with a casual smile. "I'm just disappointed that I didn't get to do more to that bastard." "But you already broke his wrist, Naruto-kun," Moka pointed out with a pout. "If you had have done any more than that, then we would have attracted more attention, possibly a teacher as well. I didn't want you to get into any trouble." Naruto sighed but nodded nonetheless as he leaned against the wall. "Why?" Sukun asked, getting inquisitive looks from the other two. "Why are you two so friendly with someone like me? I mean, I'm just a worthless, mediocre guy, you two could hang out with a lot better people than me." "Don't say things like that, Sukun-kun," Moka said, surprising the human. "You're not mediocre or worthless or anything like that." "Why, you really think so?" The vampire nodded. "Of course I do. She's right, you know, Sukun," said human, turned away from Moka and looked at Naruto. "You shouldn't think so badly of yourself, you have some qualities." "Naruto-san, Moka-san, thanks," Sukun said with a smile. "You have some good qualities as well, Naruto-kun," Moka said. "You're nice and very protective of your friends. And we're. What is it?" Moka blushed and put her hands on her cheeks. "We're on blood-sucking terms." Naruto face faulted while Sukun just stared at the vampire with a deadpan expression. "What's that supposed to even mean?" "You should be proud," Moka continued, ignoring Tsukun's question for the time being. "You have the best blood I've ever tasted, much better than those transfusion packs that I used to get blood from. You make it sound like I'm just food. To tell you the truth, you were my first." Moka's face started to heat up more, while the two boys' eyes widened. She'd said it in a way that could be easily misinterpreted. "The feeling of my first time, I'll never forget it." It was silent for a moment before Tsukun turned to his blonde friend, a small grin playing on his face. "Naruto, since you're her first, you have to take full responsibility." "Since when do you make jokes like that?" Naruto groaned. "Ah, don't say such things, Tsukun-kun. You're making me so embarrassed," Moka said before lightly shoving Tsukun, resulting in the human being implanted in the wall with tears running down his face. Note to self. Don't ever make a joke that could embarrass a super strong vampire, Tsukun thought as Naruto pulled out him of the wall with an amused smirk on his face. "Come on, we need to keep checking out the academy." Moka cheered as she ran through the corridor until she went through a set of double doors. And so they did, the trio spent over an hour exploring the school until they ended up at the dorms. The building itself was just plain creepy, it was surrounded by trees that looked half dead and tombstones. What a creepy building, Tsukun mumbled before shaking his head. "Don't judge a book by its cover, like Naruto-san said. The inside of the school wasn't creepy, so maybe the inside of the dorms aren't that bad either." Naruto's eye twitched at the sight of it. It was as if the school was going for the horror movie look. Moka, however, seemed to be in complete awe of the building. "It's so cool, full of dignity and character." "We are looking at the same building, right?" Naruto deadpanned. "You don't like it, even though you're a monster, Naruto-kun?" Moka asked before remembering something. "Oh, speaking of monsters, what type of monsters are the two of you?" Sukun started to panic, but luckily for him Naruto spoke up. "Sorry Moka-chan, we're not allowed to reveal our true forms, remember?" "Oh right, I forgot about that, sorry." "Don't worry about it." Naruto waved her apology off with a casual smile before Tsukun decided to ask what was on his mind. "Moka-san, are you really a vampire? I mean, I've read about them before, but you seem more like a human." "I may look like a human now, but that's because of this." She tapped a rosary that rested on her chest lightly. "If I take this rosary off, then I become the real thing, an evil and scary vampire." Naruto and Tsukun both stared at the rosary, the former in curiosity, while the latter stared in surprise. Rosaries have the effect of sealing off a vampire's power. "Since in my original form I was hated and caused conflict, I put this rosary on myself so I'd keep my vampire powers sealed." "Is she serious?" Tsukun thought as Naruto leaned in to get a closer look at the rosary on Moka's chest with a curious expression, much to said vampire's embarrassment. "Even though Moka-san is so cute and gentle, she's still so different from me. And then there's Naruto-san, I have a feeling that he's a human as well, but I'm not entirely sure." Having had enough of a look at the rosary, Naruto stood up straight once again. "It's not like any seal I've ever dealt with before, the only thing I could make out was that there was some of that energy that the Serasti were using Kamui him." Naruto stopped mid-thought as he felt Moka lean against him. "But even when we're sealed, we still need our blood," she said as she bit into his neck. Naruto just stood there and let her do her thing, it's not like it hurt him or anything, so he didn't mind. Naruto groaned silently to himself as he blinked the blurriness out of his eyes while walking towards the school. His shoulders were slightly slumped and his eyes were only half open, showing that he wasn't fully awake. He hadn't seen Sukun yet, so he figured that the boy had already left. "Aw man, I really shouldn't play chakra tug-of-war with Kurama on school nights," Naruto thought, causing said massive chakra to snort. "It's your own fault, you're the one that suggested it." Yeah, I know," Naruto grumbled. He often played chakra tug-of-war with Kurama, not just for both of their own amusement, but it also had the added bonus of putting stress on his chakra and therefore causing his reserves to get larger. The only problem was that it was extremely exhausting for him, thanks to Kurama having so much more chakra than him. He knew that playing tug-of-war with Kurama could kill him, but he trusted his partner to not tug too hard and kill him. The blonde glanced to the side when he sensed a sudden ill intent towards him. Heading straight for his face was what could only be described as a deformed hand in the form of a fist. Almost lazily, the Jinchuriki moved out of the way and let the fist destroy the wall he'd been walking next to. When he followed the arm upwards, he found that the owner of it was Saizo. His eyes slowly went around the immediate area and found that there was a few students watching what was happening and conversing among themselves. "Do you want something?" Naruto asked as he noticed that it had been Saizo's left fist that had attempted to pummel him and that his right wrist had been bandaged up. "Yeah, like I told the Daono weakling, I want you to stay away from Akashi Moka." Saizo sneered as his left arm began to transform back into its human shape. "Is there reason for me to stay away from her?" Naruto would have arched an eyebrow at the monster, but he found he couldn't be bothered, so he settled for a blank face. "Well, if you don't, then I'll kill you." Saizo wanted to kill the blonde for breaking his wrist the other day, but he'd wait and make Naruto suffer. Make him watch as he had his way with Moka. It was the best punishment for the blonde in Saizo's opinion. He'd just have to kill him afterwards. "Is that right?" Naruto covered his mouth to stifle a yawn as he started making his way towards the school again. He didn't even bother to glance at Saizo as he walked past him and he didn't see a point in threatening the bully back. If Saizo really thought he could actually kill him, then any threat that Naruto actually came up with wouldn't deter him anyway. Besides, if Saizo did end up trying to cause Tsukun or him any harm, then he'd just beat the crap out of him until he couldn't walk straight. If Saizo went after Moka though, he'd let the vampire have a chance at defending herself. She did say that when she removed her rosary that her evil and scary vampire side would come out, so he had a feeling that she wasn't weak when the rosary was removed. Besides, he was curious as to what her aforementioned vampire side was like. "You can't leave." A sudden shout broke Naruto out of his thoughts. That sounded like Moka-chan. Naruto mused as he changed the direction he was going and made his way towards where the shout had come from. "I can't stay here, Moka-san," Tsukun said as he held his luggage in both of his hands. "This school is just too scary, I want to go to a human one." "A human one," Moka muttered before a slight scowl came onto her face. "No, you can't go off to some human school. I hate those humans." Standing on the branch of a tree, Naruto cringed at the words as he listened and while Tsukun flinched, as if he'd been struck. "You know, I actually went to a human school up through middle school. I was so isolated it was really tough. But then Naruto-kun, and you said that I was alright even after you found out that I was a vampire, and so this is the first time in my life I haven't felt alone. So you circa." "What if," Tsukun interrupted with a deep frown. "What if I was one of those humans that you hate? Would you still stop me from leaving?" Moka's eyes went wide, but he continued. "I'm a human, through some kind of mistake I ended up being let into this school, but I'm different from you and Naruto." Even though Tsukun didn't know whether Naruto was actually a human or not, he'd act like he thought he was a monster. After all, just because he wanted to leave didn't mean his blonde friend did, and he didn't want him getting screwed over because of something he'd said. "No, there's no way a human could be here." Tsukun's frown deepened slightly at her expression, and he turned away. "So that's how you look at me now that you know I'm a human? Oh well, I shouldn't be here anyway." Moka tried to grab the human's shoulder as he was about to leave. "Wait, Tsukun." She was once again interrupted as Tsukun snapped at her. "Let go. You hate humans, right? Well then maybe I don't like monsters either." "Tsukun-kun." Moka cried as the boy ran in the direction of the bus stop with his luggage. Naruto heaved a sigh before he jumped down from the branch he was on and started walking towards the vampire, who had tears building up in her eyes. Moka's head was down as she fought the tears that had come to her eyes back before she turned her head when she heard footsteps and saw Naruto walking towards her with a frown on his face. "Sorry, Moka-chan," Naruto said as he stood in front of the vampire. "I knew he was a human but didn't say anything because I didn't want him to get killed." "What about you?" Moka asked, wiping the tears that had built up with her sleeve. "Are you a human as well?" "Well, now or never I suppose," Naruto thought as he gave the vampire a small nod. "Yeah, I am." "Then why are you here?" Tears once again built up in the girl's eyes, only this time they started to fall down her face. Shouldn't you be leaving like Sukun-kun as well? No, I'm not going anywhere. He reassured, wiping her tears away with his thumb. I'm going to have to go for a bit, okay? I've gotta go and bring Tsukun back. You promise you'll come back? I promise. Naruto gave her a small grin that caused her face to heat up before he ran in the direction Tsukun went in. If I go back home, my life will return to normal, Tsukun thought as he waited at the spot where he and Naruto had been dropped the day before. He held all of his luggage in his left hand, while he had a withdrawal notice in his right. But is this really what I want? Before he could dwell on it any longer, the bus pulled up and the doors opened to reveal the same bus driver with a cigar, once again held firmly in his mouth. So you ran away after all. Truthfully, I didn't know whether you would or not. I kinda thought that you'd bond with young Naruto-kun, you're both the same after all. So Naruto-san really is a human then? But don't go lumping him in with all those other humans that you know. He's something more. The bus driver chuckled that same chuckle that sent a shiver up Tsukun's spine. Oh well. If you have no regrets, then get on board. He was about to take a step onto the bus, but a sudden voice stopped him in his tracks. Are you really sure that you want to leave, Tsukun? Tsukun turned his head to the side to see Naruto leaning against the bus, with his arms crossed and eyes closed. How did he get there without me noticing? Tsukun shook his head before replying. I don't want to leave, but I'm just not cut out for a place like this. Naruto sighed before he stopped leaning on the bus. You make it sound like you're going to be in this academy on your own. Tsukun hesitated, what was he supposed to say? You're not going to be on your own, Tsukun. You've got me and Moka-chan, you know. Yeah, but you're a human as well, Naruto-san. What can you do against monsters? What did I tell you before? The bus driver interjected. He's not your everyday human, he's something more. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the bus driver as he stood next to Tsukun. What did he know? He sighed, he could find out later. He's right, Tsukun. When I was in Tokyo, I saw that the humans there were pitiful, to say the least. Relying on technology to do everything for them when they could do it themselves with the energy that resides within them. Energy? What do you mean? Tsukun asked in confusion. Naruto sighed again. It'll take too long to explain in detail, so I'll just give you a basic rundown. Seeing his fellow human nod, but with a still confused expression, he continued on. All humans in existence, as well as some other beings, have an energy inside of them called chakra. Chakra can be used in many different ways, from something little like controlling an element or to something extreme, like calling a meteor from space at your whim. Naruto said, idly remembering when Madara had called 2 meteors from space to crash into one of the sections of the allied shinobi. What Tsukun stammered in shock and disbelief with his eyes as wide as saucers. How is that even possible? Never mind that, how does no one know of the so-called chakra? I'm sure there's other people still alive that know about it, they just haven't told anyone. Naruto said before shaking his head. Anyway, that doesn't matter. All you need to know is that I use chakra to fight and that I won't let you or Moka-chan get hurt. I won't force you, but Moka-chan and I would really like you to stay here at Yokai Academy. Moka-san wants me to stay. Tsukun asked in surprise. But, I thought she hated humans. She probably does. Naruto agreed. But that just means that we'll have to show her that not all humans are a bunch of assholes then, right? Tsukun stayed silent as he debated on whether or not he should leave. Moka sniffled slightly as she walked around before kicking a rock. Naruto-kun promised that he'd be back with Tsukun-kun, so I'll just have to wait and make sure to apologize when they get back. The vampire suddenly stiffened in surprise when she felt someone grab her wrist and waist so that she couldn't move. So what brings you all the way out here? On your own, no less. She turned to the familiar voice and saw a certain student she didn't want to see. Saizo. That's me. He grinned as he licked his lips. You know, if you're lonely, I can keep you company. Moka forcefully removed herself from his grip and created some distance between them. Saizo chuckled and removed his jacket. I'm serious. Your beauty is incomparable to any of those puny humans I've molested. I want you in all seriousness, Akashiya Moka. Saizo. Moka cringed away as she watched Saizo's hand gain claws and gain bulging veins, while his tongue lengthened and hung out of his mouth. I can't stop myself. When I start feeling like this, my body starts to ache. His entire body transformed until he towered over Moka looking very grotesque. When I come to this point, there is no stopping me, I just can't stay in my human form anymore. And no, she muttered weakly, eyes wide as she subconsciously backed away from him. Someone please help me, she felt fear well up inside of her as she gulped before closing her eyes and screaming. Naruto. Saizo chuckled darkly. I'm going to enjoy this little violation of the school rules. His tongue slithered out of his mouth and went straight for the vampire. However, just before his tongue reached the pink-haired beauty, he felt a searing pain in his stomach before he was rocketed away from where he was standing. Moka still had her eyes closed, ready for anything that Saizo was going to do to her. Her eyes flew wide open in surprise when she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Are you alright, Moka-chan?" Naruto asked in concern. "Why you came back? You actually came back?" "Yeah, of course I did. I promised I would, didn't I?" Naruto gave her a small grin before he jabbed a thumb over his shoulder. "I brought Sukun back as well." "Hey, Moka-san." Sukun said with a small wave and a nervous expression. "Look, Before Tsukun could finish whatever he was going to say, Saizo burst back into view with a furious expression while some blood dipped from his lip. "Who the tuck did that?" he roared before noticing Naruto and Tsukun next to Moka. "I thought I told you, I'll kill you if you go near Moka again." What the hell is that thing?" Tsukun shouted once he took in Saizo's form while Naruto just grimaced at the disgusting sight. "Why you both need to run?" Moka yelled. "This is Saizo's true form." "We're not going anywhere, Moka-chan," Naruto stated firmly, surprising the vampire. That's just fine for me, it just means I can stop holding myself back from killing you." Saizo bellowed before sending his fist forward with the intent on squashing the shinobi. Naruto raised his hand as his body tensed and he sent chakra through his limbs. Saizo's fist kept coming towards the unmoving shinobi until it abruptly stopped in its tracks completely. The thing that stopped it? Naruto's hand. "Well, that was disappointing," Naruto muttered as he relaxed his body. "I probably didn't even need to use any of my energy to block that." Moka stared wide-eyed at the display while Tsukun seemed stunned. Despite having heard about this chakra that Naruto called it, he still had a hard time believing such a thing existed. What the hell? "Saizo, I'd love to beat you into nothing but mush, but I feel as if someone else has the right," Naruto said before knocking Saizo's fist out of the way and kicking the bully hard enough in the stomach to send him into a tree. "Besides that, I can't help but be curious about your vampire form, Moka-chan," Naruto thought as he made his way over to Moka before grabbing her rosary and taking it off with a quick flick of his wrist. The rosary came off. Moka managed to get out before a bright light flashed around the seal and a dark reddish pink covered Moka. When the light died down, Moka had undergone a transformation. Her pink hair had turned silver, her green eyes became red and slitted, her hands became claws, and she grew fangs, while her hips and bust size increased somewhat. Saizo gulped as he felt fear engulf him. Red eyes and an intense amount of power. So this is the legendary monster. The vampire. "What's wrong, Rogue One?" A smirk formed on Moka's face. "You wanted me, right? Then just try and take me by force." She held her hand out to the hulking form of Saizo, with a cold glint appearing in her eyes. "Won't you?" Saizo released a roar before sending his claw out to strike the silver-haired vampire. "Moka!" Tsukun yelled, but the vampire ignored him. Saizo's claw connected with her body, but she didn't even budge an inch. "Is that really all the power you have?" Then Uzumaki was right, you were disappointing. She disappeared from Saizo's view, only to appear once again in front of Saizo's face. "You had better," she lashed out and landed a brutal kick straight into his face. "Know your place." "What physical strength, she's beautiful too," Naruto thought as Saizo let out a roar of pain before he was sent flying through several trees and tombstones until he stopped moving, obviously unconscious. "A low-class monster like you who has nothing to show for his size doesn't even make a decent opponent in a contest of strength. What is this overwhelming cold power? She's like a completely different person from before," Tsukun thought as Moka completely ignored him and made her way towards Naruto. "You're pretty strong for a human. To stop an attack from a monster is no easy feat for someone like you," she remarked. "So are you afraid of this me?" "Is there a reason to be afraid of a friend?" Naruto replied with a smile. She smirked before her eyes locked onto an exposed part of Naruto's neck. Licking her lips, she leaned in and dug her fangs into him. Naruto winced slightly, having not expected this Moka to bite down so much harder. She pulled back and licked her lips to get any blood she may have missed. "You have delicious blood as well. It's no matter why my other half loves it so much." She reached out and grabbed the rosary out from his hands. "Anyway, it's been a while since I've been awakened and I'm feeling a bit drowsy still. Make sure you babysit the other sentimental Moka." Naruto watched as she reattached the rosary to the chain, causing her to revert back into her pink-haired self. Moka swayed on her feet a bit before she collapsed into Naruto's arms. Naruto shifted Moka's body around until he was carrying her bridal style before he turned to Tsukun. "Come on, let's go back to Yokai Academy." Naruto and Tsukun were both standing outside of the academy school gates, with the latter holding his withdrawal notice in his hands. Naruto gave Tsukun an encouraging nod and smile. Tsukun closed his eyes and took in a deep breath while holding the withdrawal notice sideways so that it was easier to do what he had to do. The sound of ripping made itself known as Tsukun tore the notice into two different pieces. The human smiled, feeling as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Before Naruto could say anything, a cheerful voice made itself known as a certain pink-haired vampire wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Morning Naruto-kun, Tsukun-kun." "Morning Moka-chan." Naruto greeted back as Tsukun gave a nod to the girl while she let go of the blonde. Moka fidgeted slightly. "Naruto-kun, I just wanted to say thank you for yesterday." Naruto turned around to face her, only to see that her face was dangerously close to his own, with a slight blush on it. "Oh my, when I'm with you my heart beats so hard, Naruto-kun." Naruto blinked. "Why's that?" "I don't know," she mumbled before her face lit up. "Maybe it's because I need to suck your blood." Naruto didn't bother to protest as Moka wrapped her arms around him and bit into his neck to drink his life force. Tsukun stood there for a good 30 seconds, but Moka had yet to stop drinking on his friend's blood. "Moka-san, perhaps it would be best if you left Naruto-san with enough blood for him to live." Moka heard what Tsukun said and detached herself from the blonde with a sheepish expression. "Ah, sorry about that, but I really couldn't help myself. Naruto-kun's blood is just so good." Naruto shook his head in amusement before he started making his way towards the school. "Let's get going or we're going to be late." "Right. What are you talking about?" The question came from an apprehensive Naruto. He was currently standing in a room that was in an underground base that had once belonged to the Senju clan during the clan wars. Sitting in front of him behind a wooden desk were 3 of the Kage. The Hokage, the Kazekage and the Raikage. "It is as we have said, Naruto." Tsunade's voice was cold, something Naruto had gotten used to. "With the way you can use Kage bunshin, you're the perfect candidate for this. No, you're probably the only one who could actually come out of this alive." "But, why does this have to be done, Bachan?" Naruto gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. "Don't get me wrong, I'm all for the idea of me getting stronger, but I won't stand around as you let numerous shinobi go to their deaths just to buy me some time to train." "The train?" Tsunade's stoic and hardened expression didn't waver in the slightest. "This can hardly be called training. What we're doing, Naruto, is compressing as much knowledge as we possibly can into you." "I don't care what you call it." Naruto snapped, glaring straight into the Senju's eyes. "Naruto, be reasonable." It was Gaara who spoke up this time, his face showed nothing, but Naruto could see the reluctance to do what he had to do in his eyes. "This isn't something that we would like to do, but it is something that needs to be done. To have any chance against Uchiha Obito, we need to make you as strong as possible." I grunted. "It's the best decision. That Uchiha is the Jinchuriki of the Jubi, probably the closest thing that could actually be called a god that's alive right now. We've been losing so many shinobi because he has all of that power compressed into his body and his body alone. In order to counter that, we're going to compress as much knowledge and power into you as we possibly can in a short amount of time by having you use your Kage bunshins." Tsunade nodded in agreement and closed her eyes. "Uzumaki Naruto, as your Hokage, I order you to go into hiding and learn as much as possible. You will not see your friends during your time in hiding, the only people you will see will be the ones who are compressing their knowledge into you." "Hey Naruto. Wait up." Tsukun called as he jogged up to his blonde friend. Said shinobi was walking along the same path to the school that most students took. "Hey Tsukun." Naruto greeted as the other human fell into step beside him, his breathing only slightly deeper than usual. "So what's up?" "Well, I wanted to know how you know about chakra, it's not something that's common knowledge." "I mean, I only learned about it yesterday," Tsukun said. Ever since he had heard about the energy that all humans supposedly had, he'd been enthralled and wanted to know more about it. "How I know about chakra, huh?" Naruto mused aloud. He didn't really know how to explain it to Tsukun, it's not like he could just bluntly say, "Oh, that's easy, I'm a ninja that's not from this world." Well, he didn't actually know if he was in a different world or not, for all he knew he could be in a different timeline. "Well, I guess I could try to explain some stuff to you, but I'm warning you now. Some of the things I'll tell you might not seem believable." "Alright." Naruto sighed as he gathered the words together and figured out the best way to explain it. "I guess I should start by saying that I was raised in a place where knowing how to use chakra was the norm. Chakra was basically our way of life. Everything we did revolved around the energy that resides inside of us." "Where did you get raised then?" Tsukun asked, but frowned when Naruto shook his head. "Another time, Tsukun. Where I grew up isn't exactly something I want to talk about," Naruto said. "Especially not so soon after I disappeared from there." The black-haired boy sighed but nodded nonetheless. If he didn't want to talk about it, then he wouldn't push the subject. "Fine, but what else can chakra do? You already told me that you were able to control the elements and call a meteor from space, even though that's still really hard to actually believe. There's too many things that you can actually do with chakra to name, Tsukun. I don't even know all of them." Naruto said before reaching into his pocket and bringing out a tri-pronged kunai. This is a kunai that my father created. What does it do? Sukun asked as he examined the weapon that had kanji written on the hilt. Naruto's eyes glinted mischievously and he wagged a finger. You'll have to wait and see. It wouldn't be any fun if I just told you. The blonde pocketed the kunai while Tsukun sent him an annoyed look. You can't just go and show me something like that without telling me what it does. Tsukun huffed in annoyance. It's like you're holding it just out of my reach. That's what I was aiming for. Naruto grinned at his friend as they continued their trek towards the school. It wasn't long before the duo heard the awe-filled voices of other students. Oh, look at her, she's absolutely stunning. It's like she's surrounded by a bright light. She's so dazzling. She's definitely the academy's most beautiful girl. Naruto rolled his eyes while Tsukun just shook his head at their comments. The two kept walking towards the odd students before spotting their only other friend that went to their school, Akashi Moka. Morning Naruto-kun, Tsukun-kun. The vampire exclaimed cheerfully before latching onto Naruto's arm. That action alone sent the students surrounding them into a frenzy. Who does that guy think he is getting held by Moka-san like that? What do those two think they're doing acting so close to Moka-san? Naruto, Tsukun and Moka ignored their shouts and cries as they made their way to the academy, with Moka having an iron grip on Naruto's arm the entire way. As they walked, they were blissfully unaware of a certain scowling succubus. Tsukun sighed as he walked around the school building looking for his two friends. They had been in different classes for the morning, so they had been separated, and it was why he was looking for them at the very moment. Even though the three of us explored the school yesterday, this place is still so confusing. As someone help me, a weak but sweet voice called out, gaining the black-haired human's attention. He turned his head in the direction the voice came from, only for his face to start heating up at what he saw. Leaning up against one of the many dead-looking trees not too far away from him was a girl with light blue hair, which was tied back by a purple headband that had 2 stars on it, along with a pair of purple eyes. She wore a plain long-sleeved white shirt with a red bow tie, as well as a pale yellow-colored vest, leg warmers, and the usual skirt that the female students wore. The girl seemed to notice him because her eyes locked straight onto his. Help me, please, I just started to suddenly feel ill. Tsukun just stared at her for a few moments, silently admiring her good looks and large friezes, before shaking himself out of it and walking over to her. Can you stand up on your own? When she shook her head, he leaned down and slung her arm over his shoulder. I'll help you get to the infirmary. With his help, the girl was able to get to her feet, but she still leaned on him for support. Thank you very much. She said before letting out a small grunt. My chest, it just started to hurt all of a sudden. She pushed her large fleshy globes into Tsukun's chest, causing the poor human's face to go so red that it looked as if it was on fire. Hold me tight like this, because if you don't, my chest might burst. They're so big and soft. He shook his head after he had that thought. Bad thoughts, Tsukun. Bad thoughts. Hey, Tsukun-kun. Can you look into my eyes for a moment? The human did so without a second thought, only for him to feel his heart skip a few beats. I'm Kurono Kurumu. Please be a good friend to me, okay? Wow, what beautiful eyes. Tsukun's arms went around Kurumu's waist and brought her closer to him. What the hell is going on? I don't have any control over my body. Naruto-kun. Naruto stopped walking down the hallway and turned around to see Moka running up to him. Hey, Moka-chan. Naruto greeted before he noticed her staring at him rather intently. Is something wrong? His words seemed to snap her back to reality and she smiled at him. No, nothing's wrong. I was just wondering how you were able to stop Saizo's attacks the other day. I mean, your kind isn't known for being able to do something like that. I'll explain some other time, preferably when Tsukun is with us as well, so I don't have to repeat myself. Naruto said as he continued walking with the vampire falling into step beside him. Oh, alright then. Moka said, glad that he was actually planning on telling her at some point. So, where are we going, Naruto-kun? I was going to the headmaster's office. I need to have a talk with him about some things. Like why he invited me here, for one. Moka looked at him with some surprise. The headmaster invited you here? Naruto nodded as he stuffed his hands in his pockets. Yeah, after an incident in Tokyo that involved some yokai and myself. Tokyo? She furrowed her brows slightly. What happened in Tokyo? Just some yokai attacking the hospital I was in, nothing to worry about. He gave her a casual smile, hoping that she wouldn't go any deeper into the subject. He didn't want to try and explain that he wasn't exactly from the area when he himself didn't know all the details. She frowned at his casual dismissal of whatever happened in Tokyo, but didn't press the matter. The duo continued their walk to the headmaster's office in a comfortable silence, ignoring the stares that they received from the opposite sex, as well as the occasional ones that Moka got from other females. Luckily, they didn't have to put up with them for long as they reached the door to the headmaster's office not long after. Naruto grabbed a hold of the handle and opened the door before gesturing inside with his hand. Ladies first. She gave him an amused look as she stepped inside the room. My, such a gentleman. Yeah, well it was either become one or get pummeled into the ground by Sakura and Bachan. Naruto suppressed a wince at the memory of the two of them teaching him before he followed the vampire into the headmaster's dimly lit room. You should have knocked first. The two looked at the cloaked man with glowing eyes and an eerie grin that was sitting behind the desk. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. You should have told me this was a school for yokai. Instead of getting annoyed like Naruto had expected, the headmaster's grin seemed to widen slightly. Well, if you're here for what I think you are, then it would be best if Akashiya-san wasn't here. Why's that? Naruto crossed his arms with a frown on his face, an expression that was mirrored by Moka. There's some things that are going to be said in this room that I'd prefer to keep a secret. Naruto sighed before turning to Moka, but before he could say anything, said vampire spoke up with a slight smile on her face. It's alright, Naruto-kun. I'll just go and try to find Sukun-kun. Naruto nodded and Moka left the room. He didn't actually mind Moka finding out about anything, but if the headmaster wanted to keep it a secret, then he'd go with it. For now at least. Well, the headmaster started as he nodded to the only chair in the room other than his own, a plain wooden seat with 4 legs that looked extremely uncomfortable. Sit down and you can start asking away, but keep in mind that I won't be able to answer everything. Naruto took the seat and stared straight into the headmaster's glowing eyes. First of all, how did the bus driver know that I was different from other humans? I told him. Naruto felt his eye twitch at the short and curt answer. Then how did you know? A massive surge of, what did the bus driver say you called it? Ah, that's it, chakra. Anyway, a massive surge of this chakra isn't something that I wouldn't notice. I wouldn't be surprised if there was others that felt it as well. The headmaster said and Naruto nodded. Actually, that surge of chakra was so massive that I'm sure even that perverted otaku felt it all the way in China. Alright. Then why did you invite me to this school? There's 2 reasons for that, actually. The headmaster's right hand came up and he showed Naruto 2 fingers, it was almost as if he was explaining things to a child. The first reason is as I told you in the note, to keep you away from the government. The second reason is because of the reason this school was created in the first place. Coexistence with humans. Naruto frowned in slight confusion. Why do you need me for that? The headmaster wagged his finger, something the blonde remembered doing to Tsukun earlier that morning. You can find that out another time. It wouldn't be any fun if I just told you. Naruto twitched at getting a taste of his own medicine, while Kurama just snorted in amusement. Fine, then do you know how I got into this world or timeline or whatever you want to call it? Not a clue. Was the flat and blunt answer he received. Is there anything else? Naruto wasn't that surprised with the answer he got, he hadn't been expecting much, but he had to try, right? He was silent for a few moments before he sighed. I want you to give me at least basic knowledge of this world. Moka was leaning against a wall in one of the many hallways that were in Yokai Academy. She'd searched for Tsukun, but the human was nowhere to be found. To add to her downbeat mood, Naruto still hadn't returned from the headmaster's office, so she was left on her own with just her thoughts. Hey, pay attention to what's going on around you. You're being targeted. Moka let out a small yelp as she heard the voice come from seemingly nowhere. Who said that? Hey, you're a vampire, right? Moka looked up at where the voice came from and saw a girl with light blue hair sitting on the railing to the stairs. At least that's what the rumors say, Akashiya Moka-san. Who are you? The girl smirked before she jumped off of the railing to land on the floor in front of Moka, causing her large mounds to jiggle, something that the male students in the hallway openly and shamelessly stared at. She ignored the perverted comments that came from the males and instead stalked up to the vampire until she was right next to her. I'm the succubus Kurono Kurumu. I have come to defeat you. Wait a minute, isn't it against the school rules to give away your true form? Moka asked apprehensively. Kurumu let out a small huff as she pointed at Moka in an accusing manner, completely ignoring her question. I can't stand it anymore. You're the biggest eyesore in the way of my great plan. Your plan? The succubus nodded, crossed her arms and closed her eyes. Yes, my plan to transform every boy in this academy into my slave. The Yokai Academy Harem transformation plan. Along with everyone else in the hallway, Moka just stared at Kurumu with her mouth half open, not really knowing what to say. My plan was perfect. I should have had every guy at the academy a slave to my beauty right from the start. However, she got right up into Moka's personal space with a scowl. But then you came along and all the guys started dreaming about you instead of me. I'm not letting you get away with this, I refuse to lose in a battle of feminine charm. Before Kurumu could continue with her speech, a voice spoke up. What's going on? The two girls as well as everyone else who had been watching Moka and Kurumu's one-sided argument turned their heads towards the owner of the voice to see Naruto walking over to them with an arched eyebrow. "Oh look, Naruto-kun's here." The smile on Kurumu's face was a little too sweet for Moka's liking. "Do I know you?" Naruto asked as he stopped beside Moka. "Not exactly, but my name's Kurumu." The smile on the brunette's face became slightly wider. "Could you do something for me?" "Depends on what it is." "Just look into my eyes." Naruto did so, and as soon as he did, he felt his face become warm as his heart skipped a few beats. Kurama silently groaned in annoyance as he witnessed this. "You're losing your touch, you damn brat." The Biju sent out a small burst of his chakra and easily broke his partner out of Kurumu's control. Naruto blinked as his face lost the blush it had gained while his heartbeat returned to normal. "Thanks, Kurama." Kurama just grunted in acknowledgement as he closed his eyes and tried to get some sleep. At least he had something to hold over the blonde for a while though. Was something supposed to happen? Kurumu felt her face heat up in embarrassment as she heard Naruto's deadpan tone. "Did my charm not work?" "No, I could have sworn that I had him under control, which means that he broke through it somehow." Normally, Naruto would have told Kurumu that illusions or anything similar were all but useless on him so that she wouldn't try it again, but he found her flustered state to be amusing, so he just let it be. "Moka-san, Naruto-san." Once again, everyone in the hallway turned their heads in the direction of the voice to see Tsukun running up to them. Kurumu-san's here too." "Hey Tsukun." Naruto greeted casually as Moka just smiled and gave the boy a nod in greeting. "How do you know Kurumu-san, by the way?" "I found her after class when I was looking for the two of you." Tsukun sent a glance to the succubus. "She said she was feeling ill so I took her to the infirmary." "Ah Tsukun-kun, you were so nice and gentle when you helped me earlier." Kurumu cried as she latched onto the human with her large fists pressing up against his chest, something that made his face heat up immensely. "Would you be so kind as to look me in the eyes, Tsukun-kun?" Tsukun obeyed the succubus and looked her straight in the eyes, and much like earlier, he felt his face heat up as his heart skipped a few beats. "It's happening again, when I look into Kurumu-san's eyes, I just get this dizzy feeling." "Tsukun, step away from her. She's using some sort of illusion to control your actions," Naruto said, sending an annoyed look to the succubus who just stuck her tongue out at him. "Oh really?" Tsukun drawled in a flat monotone. His face was blank and his eyes had taken on a dull look. "How do I know that you just want me to step away so you can get closer to Kurumu-chan? You stupid blonde." Naruto gained a rather large and throbbing tick mark on his head. "Fine, don't step away from her then. See if I care." Naruto huffed, crossed his arms and looked away, an annoyed scowl coming onto his face. Moka had heard what Naruto had said about Kurumu using some sort of illusion to control Tsukun, so she stepped in when it looked like her blonde friend wasn't going to say anything more. "Please listen to Naruto-kun, Tsukun-kun. She's controlling you." Tsukun's voice remained monotone. "Why would you care whether or not Kurumu-chan's controlling me? After all, I'm not the one you use as food, Naruto is." Moka reeled back as if she'd been struck with her eyes wide and tears building up in the corners of them. But I don't use Naruto-kun as food and I care because you're my friend, Tsukun-kun." "Why am I saying all these mean things to Naruto-san and Moka-san?" Tsukun questioned himself but could do nothing but watch as his own body wrapped an arm around Kurumu's waist before turning around. "Forget it, Akashiya-san. I don't believe you." Naruto sighed as Tsukun and Kurumu started walking away from him and Moka before he turned around and placed a hand on the vampire's shoulder, causing her to look at him with teary eyes. "We'll set Tsukun straight later." Moka nodded and sniffled slightly as she and Naruto disappeared from everyone's view, leaving only a few leaves in their place. "I did it. I finally did it." Kurumu cheered inside her mind with tears running down her face and her tail wagging behind her. She and Tsukun were in the infirmary as it was the closest place Kurumu could find that had a free bed and was empty. Tsukun was sitting on a chair next to the bed that Kurumu was sitting on. Yahoo! That pitiful face she made is one I'm not going to forget soon. Tsukun's head was down and he had a frown on his face. "I wonder why I said those mean things to Naruto-san and Moka-san." His frown deepened. "I'll have to make sure to apologize to them both." "Tsukun-kun." Said human's head came up only for it to be smashed in between Kurumu's fists. "What the hell am I supposed to do now?" Tsukun internally cried as his face became as red as it possibly could. "You're sad aren't you, Tsukun-kun? Don't worry, Kurumu will help you feel better." Naruto and Moka were sitting on the roof of the school with their legs dangling over the edge. Moka had a thoughtful frown on her face while Naruto just sat there silently, waiting for Moka to speak up when she was ready. He didn't have to wait long. "Hey, Naruto-kun, you don't think I just use you for your blood, do you?" Naruto spared her a glance before shaking his head. "No, I don't think that, Moka-chan." Besides, I don't actually mind you sucking my blood. Oh really? She asked tentatively, playing with the hem of her skirt. You really don't mind when I suck your blood? Before Naruto could reply, the rosary around Moka's neck began to rattle around, while a red, slitted pupil made itself known, and Moka yelped when she heard the same voice from before. If you're done talking, then I should probably tell you that Aono is in danger. The rosary is speaking. Moka muttered in shock, while Naruto gave her a weird look, having not been able to hear the voice. Yes, I'm speaking. The voice drawled. The best way to explain would be to say that I'm another you. I'm just using the rosary as a medium to communicate with you from deep within your psyche. Oh, okay. She mumbled before remembering what was said before. Wait, you said that Sukun-kun was in danger. He's currently with a succubus, is he not? The voice asked rhetorically. Anyway, that succubus was using a technique called charm to control not only Aono's actions, but also his words. Wait, then that mean? Yes, Aono wasn't willingly saying those things to you or Uzumaki. But that's not the reason he's in danger. He's in danger because one kiss from a succubus will doom him to be that succubus's slave for eternity. With its piece said, the rosary once again went silent as the slitted pupil disappeared. Moka-chan, are you alright? You were speaking to yourself. The vampire blinked and became aware that Naruto was staring straight into her eyes. She blushed and looked away from his intense blue eyes that currently held concern. I'm fine, but we need to go find Sukun-kun. He's in danger. Huh? What do you mean he's in danger? Kurumu-san is a succubus. Seeing an arched eyebrow from the blonde, she continued. When a succubus kisses someone, that someone becomes their slave for eternity. Well, that can't be good. To say Tsukun's face was red would be an understatement. The thing might as well have been on fire as far as the human was concerned. The reason was the position he was currently in with a certain succubus. Kurumu smiled sweetly at Tsukun, who was laying down on his back on the bed while she hovered over him on her hands and knees. Hey Kurumu-san, Tsukun muttered, not really knowing whether to just lean forwards and kiss the girl or to try and leave. What is with me? Whenever I look into Kurumu-san's eyes I just start spacing out. Kurumu's face started to get closer to Tsukun's own. Even my heart has started to race, but with this kiss the charm spell will be complete, she thought as their faces were inches apart. With this kiss, I'll turn Tsukun into my slave and start getting back at Moka. However, just before their lips met, Kurumu let out a yelp as her eyes widened when she felt someone pull on her leg until she was held dangling upside down. She blinked and looked around, only to find out that Naruto was holding her in the air by her ankle. You know, Naruto drawled as he held the succubus's ankle while said girl moved her hands to her skirt in an attempt to cover her exposed panties. It's not nice to force someone into being your slave. He put me down right now. Kurumu yelled as her face heated up in embarrassment. Tsukun just stared at what was happening in front of him in bewilderment. One moment he had a beautiful girl with large freaks basically crawling all over him, then the next he finds the same girl being held in the air by the ankle, courtesy of his blonde friend. Naruto-san, what are you doing? I'm saving you. Naruto replied as he started to move his hand from side to side, causing the succubus's body to follow. Hey. Stop ignoring me. I said put me down. Naruto looked down into Kurumu's eyes. Are you sure you want to get down? When his reply was a glare, he shrugged and let go of her ankle, causing her to hit the ground head first. Tsukun's sweat dropped as Kurumu started to let out several curse words while getting up. The succubus patted down her uniform before she sent Naruto a death glare, while her nails extended into claws and wings sprouted from her back. I said put me down, not drop me on my head. She hissed. Naruto shrugged. You still got down, didn't you? Kurumu snarled before slashing at him with her claws. However, before they could reach him, she felt something crash into the side of her body that sent her flying out of the nearby window. Kaya. Moka huffed as her arms went back down to her side, having had them up to push Kurumu out the window with her vampire strength. Naruto whistled slightly at the sight. Would you look at that? You sent her flying with just a shove. Moka blushed at the compliment, while Tsukun didn't look as surprised as he probably should have been. Hey, what are you two doing here anyway? Saving you? Naruto said simply, repeating what he'd said earlier, as if it was all that needed to be said. By dangling a girl upside down and dropping said girl on her head. Came Tsukun's deadpan, sarcastic and rhetorical question. Naruto huffed while Moka smiled in amusement before she decided to explain. Tsukun-kun, Kurumu-san is a succubus, and one kiss from a succubus can turn a male into their slave for eternity. Tsukun stared at the two of them with a completely blank face for a few moments as his mind processed what Moka had said. Slowly, his jaw started to lower as his expression turned from blank to disbelief. Why you mean that I would have been Kurumu-san's slave? Naruto nodded and crossed his arms. If you knew that, then why did you let me go with Kurumu-sen in the first place? Sukun asked as he shook off his disbelief and tried to remind himself that he was in a school for yokai. We didn't know that a succubus could do that when you left with her. Naruto admitted with a shrug of his shoulders. Before Tsukun could say anything, they all heard the flapping of wings and a familiar voice. I can't believe I was thrown so far. I guess a vampire's strength really is something else. But that doesn't matter, come out here so I can kill all three of you. The three simultaneously turned their heads in the direction the voice came from to see an enraged Kurumu just outside the window, with her wings flapping behind her. Naruto sighed before turning to the resident vampire. Moka-chan, do you know why Kurumu-sen's doing this? Moka's eyebrows furrowed together slightly. Well, she did say earlier that she wanted to defeat me because I was getting the way of her Yokai Academy harem transformation plan. I don't think I even want to know. Stop ignoring me. Kurumu seethed as she flew through the window and once again slashed her claws at Naruto, only to have a foot firmly planted in her stomach and once again get blown outside, only this time she went out a different window and shattered that one too. I really can't fight well in enclosed areas, Kurumu thought as she placed a hand on her stomach where Naruto had kicked her while trying to steady herself in the air. Alright, well I guess I'll take care of Kurumu-sen then. Naruto muttered as he made his way over to one of the broken windows with a yawn. Wait, Naruto-kun. Naruto turned around just as he was at the window to look at the vampire who had a frown on her face. What is it, Moka-chan? Take my rosary off. She placed a hand on said object. If Kurumu-sen really thinks that I'm in the way of her plan, then this whole thing is probably my fault. It's not your fault, Moka-chan. Naruto said with a frown, but the vampire stood firm. Fine, if you feel so strongly about it. He sighed before grabbing the rosary and taking it off with a quick flick of his wrist. Much like the night before, Moka was once again enveloped in a bright flash of light. When it died down, Moka was still standing there. Only she had silver hair, red, slitted eyes, exposed fangs and a much sterner expression. What is this? Kurumu thought as the now silver-haired vampire jumped out of the window and landed on the ground. Her pink hair turned silver and her eyes changed. There's so much power coming from her as well, is this the real power of a vampire? She hid a shiver when she noticed Moka's cold glare turn on her. Uzumaki. Moka called out, gaining Naruto's attention as she looked back up at the window he was looking out of. I know that my other half told you to take the rosary off, but I still expect a payment after this. A payment? Naruto muttered to himself as Tsukun made his way to his side and watched out of the same window. Your blood, obviously. I guess Moka-san still likes your blood even if she isn't sealed, Naruto-san. The human said and Naruto hummed in agreement. Kurumu scowled at the vampire. HMPH. Don't go saying things like after this, there won't be such a thing for you since you'll die here. Moka matched her expression thanks to the succubus having the gall to actually think that she could kill her. Us succubus seek a destined one from among the men we tempt. In order to keep our species from dying out, we must carefully pick just one man out of many to be our destined one. She likes speaking, doesn't she? Naruto remarked while Tsukun shook his head and sighed at his friend's comment. You're getting in the way of me finding my destined one, Akashi Moka. Kurumu launched herself at Moka with her claws ready to slice the vampire to ribbons. You won't get away with that no matter what. So what are you going to do? A smirk made its way onto Moka's face. You can't let me do this, so you dare bare your fangs at the likes of me? She chuckled without any amusement. You frail egotistical woman, know your place. Kurumu snarled before she swiped her claws at the vampire, but Moka was already behind her, with her tail held firmly in the vampire's hands. You're too slow, I thought that you were going to kill me. Moka taunted before swinging the succubus over her shoulder and slamming her into the ground with enough force to create a large crater. Now why don't I tear off that tail and rip those wings of yours off so that you can never fly again? I should probably put a stop to this, otherwise Moka-chan's going to cripple her. Naruto mused aloud before placing a hand on Tsukun's shoulder and disappearing, leaving only a few swirling leaves in their place. As soon as they reappeared, Tsukun stumbled slightly before taking in his surroundings. Deciding to ask what the hell Naruto had done later, he started to run straight towards Moka and Kurumu, something that caused a blonde to arch an eyebrow at as he casually walked over with his hands in his pockets. Kurumu's eyes widened in horror as Moka stalked towards her with the intent on going through with her threat. I'll make sure you can never stand up to me ever again. The succubus whimpered slightly as the vampire got closer and closer to her. However, just as Moka was about to grab a hold of one of Kurumu's wings, a hand grasped the silver-haired woman's wrist. Admittedly, it wasn't a very firm grip and was one that Moka could have broken out of without even trying, but it was enough to make her stop and glare at the one who had dared to touch her. What do you think you're doing, Aono? She hissed dangerously at the boy who looked slightly green. You've done enough, Moka-san. Sukun said as he blinked a few times, trying to regain his bearings. Wasn't this the same girl that just tried to enslave you and threatened to kill you just before? Growing annoyed with the human touching her wrist, she yanked it away. Yes, it was. But I don't think that Kurumu-san was doing out of purely bad intentions. Sukun smiled slightly while Kurumu's eyes were wide open in surprise. I just can't imagine Kurumu-san being a bad girl at heart. So, don't hurt her, Moka-san. You think that you can order me around? Moka growled before aiming a kick to the side of his ribs. She wasn't going to kill him, of course, her other side considered him to be a friend. But she wouldn't stand for being ordered around, her pride wouldn't let her. So she'd just show the human his place. Sukun's eyes widened in shock as Moka's leg came sailing towards him, and yet, all he could do was watch. He needn't have to do anything tough, for when Moka's leg got within a few inches of his ribs, a hand grasped the limb and stopped it in its tracks. Naruto sighed as he held onto Moka's leg while chakra ran through his own arm. I probably shouldn't make a habit out of grabbing girls' legs, Naruto mused before looking into Moka's currently red and slitted eyes. Can you not try to kill Tsukun, Moka-chan? I wasn't going to kill him, just show him that he can't order me around. That's why I didn't put much effort into it. The vampire replied before her eyes narrowed at him. Let go of my leg. Now who's ordering who around? Naruto shot back with a small grin that made the vampire twitch before he released her limb. My payment. Naruto rolled his eyes before he tilted his head to the side, and the vampire eagerly dug her fangs into his exposed neck before she started to drain him of his life force. What? The rosary just started talking to you? And it was Kurumu-san that was controlling what I was saying. Moka nodded as she, Naruto and Tsukun, who had asked the question, walked to the school. Yeah, this time the voice ended up saving us, but it's really strange. The seal has never done that before. Maybe it's a sign that the seal is weakening. That could be the case. Naruto agreed, remembering back to before he and Kurama had become partners, when the former was able to call on more of the latter's chakra when the seal was weakening. Hey, Naruto-kun, if it comes to the point where the seal doesn't work anymore, would you still like me? Moka asked shyly as she stopped walking, the other two noticed and stopped as well. Of course I would. Naruto's response was immediate and there was no signs of hesitation in his voice. I'm sure Tsukun thinks the same, right? Yeah, I do. Moka smiled brightly at her two friends when she heard their words. Thank you, she mumbled as she stared into Naruto's eyes, seemingly getting lost in them as Naruto stared back into hers. Tsukun turned away from the scene, silently trying to convince himself that he wasn't a third wheel. Good morning. A loud and cheerful voice exclaimed, effectively drawing everyone's attention to where it came from to see Kurumu holding some sort of small box. Kurumu-san, what are you doing here? Tsukun asked as the succubus seemed to stare straight into his eyes while a small blush came onto her face. Well, I made some cookies for you, Tsukun-kun. Kurumu chirped as she handed the human the small box that she'd been holding. I was hoping that we'd be able to eat them together. Oh, thanks Kurumu-san, but why me? The black-haired human asked as he took the box from her. Her small blush seemed to glow brighter. Oh, remember when I said I was searching for my destined one? Tsukun nodded to show that he remembered. Well, I've decided that it would be you, Tsukun-kun. Tsukun's jaw dropped open in shock while Naruto's eyebrows shot up into his hairline, an action that Moka mirrored. Why me? Oh, Tsukun-kun, Kurumu sighed in an almost blissful way as she placed her hands on her cheeks. It should be obvious. Despite Moka being really scary yesterday, you still risked your life to protect me by stopping her. In response, Tsukun did the only thing he could think of. He ran. Wait, Tsukun-kun. We have to eat those cookies together. Kurumu shouted as she ran after he destined one. Wow, I didn't think that Kurumu-san could actually blush like that, Moka muttered as she and Naruto started to walk towards the academy again. She seemed so cold and arrogant yesterday. People change. Naruto shrugged before sending a smile to the vampire. It looks like we're going to be seeing a lot more of Kurumu-san though. Moka nodded her head in agreement, not really knowing how to act around the succubus seeing as she tried to kill her yesterday. It seems that way. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.